Beyond midnight. Tortured by his friends. This horrific case took place in North Tyneside, England, in the quiet village of Percy, Maine, located near North Shields. To the outside world, it was just an ordinary residential place where neighbors lived in typical suburban routine. But behind closed doors, a strange and deeply unsettling dynamic was forming among a group of neighbors whose relationships slowly spiraled into what prosecutors later described as having an almost cultish dimension. At the center of this group was Jimmy Prout, a vulnerable 45-year-old man. Jimmy was one of 8 siblings raised in a chaotic and unstable home environment. His brother Eddie recalled that Jimmy was eventually moved to a school in Wales where he tragically suffered abuse. Despite these early hardships, Jimmy possessed a natural talent for mechanical work and was incredibly skilled with his hands and able to repair almost anything. For a time, he found stable work in a local scrapyard. Later in life, when his 2 children were born, his family life seemed to be going well until he began using cannabis. The drug use sparked intense domestic arguments, which ultimately resulted in his children being taken into protective care and him separating from the mother of his children. Jimmy eventually became homeless and remained without home until September 2012, when he moved in with a group of local residents he genuinely believed were his friends, the very same individuals who would go on to systematically torture and kill him. Jimmy believed he had found a supportive network of friends. Instead, he had walked directly into a living nightmare. The ecosystem inside the house where these events took place revolved around a complex web of codependency and manipulation. Zahid Zaman, a 43-year-old wheelchair user, emerged as the vengeful, controlling ringleader of the group. Living at the property alongside Zaman was his former partner, 56-year-old Kay Rayworth. Zaman had also become romantically involved with 50-year-old Myra Wood, who lived at another nearby house on the street, alongside 26-year-old Ann Corbett. Jimmy was a regular user of homeless services in Newcastle, which included soup kitchens. Most likely, Jimmy met Zaman at a soup kitchen or food bank, as Zaman visited such places even though he had a settled address. Jimmy lived within this tight-knit circle, completely isolated and highly controlled. In late 2015, the group's internal dynamic fractured completely. Zaman grew convinced that Jimmy had played a personal role in a recent theft against him. Fueled by a desire of revenge, Zaman orchestrated a systematic campaign of punishment. Rather than standing up to protect their vulnerable neighbor, the other members of the group completely submitted to Zaman's influence, either directly participating in the violence or actively encouraging or witnessing it. What followed over the next 4 months was a campaign of sadistic torture and profound degradation that prosecutors openly stated belonged in the Dark Ages. CCTV cameras that Zaman had installed on his own house captured the terrifying decline of Jimmy's physical health. While footage from October 2015 showed him relatively healthy and active, clips from early February 2016 showed him heavily emaciated, staggering in agony, and collapsing against fences. The court heard that the escalation of violence included having his teeth brutally knocked out of his jaw with a hammer. Jimmy was subjected to severe abuse, forced to submit to intercourse with dogs, and suffered horrific physical mutilation by being forced to eat one of his own testicles. During this period of intense isolation, Jimmy posted photographs of his visible facial injuries on his personal Facebook account, adding heart-wrenching captions like, "My body hurt" and "My shoulder hurts." Tragically, despite the abuse occurring in what a later safeguarding review described as plain sight of both the local community and various services, no formal alerts were raised. The psychological submission was absolute, Jimmy remained trapped in the house until his body could no longer endure the trauma. The final sighting of Jimmy occurred on CCTV on February 6, 2016, when he was seen being supported by Corbett and Rayworth in a dreadful state. He passed away from his injuries on February 9, 2016. Once Jimmy had passed away, the group's immediate focus shifted to self-preservation and elaborate deception. They carried his lifeless body out of the residence and dumped it in a patch of dense wasteland near the Tyne Tunnel, just 100 meters away from his own front door, where it lay decomposing and was partially damaged by wildlife for over 6 weeks. For the next 6 weeks, the killers went to extraordinary lengths to pretend Jimmy was still completely alive. They routinely withdrew money directly from his bank account to clear his funds. They explicitly walked around the neighborhood, asking locals if they had seen him and faking a frantic search to throw off suspicion. Their scheme fell apart on March 25, 2016, when Zaman called the police to claim that Ann Corbett had attacked him and killed Jimmy, an intentional move to blame it all on her. When police arrived, the group put on what prosecutors called pure theater. The criminals went as far as fabricating fake confession letters, signing them using the name of the fourth defendant in an attempt to frame each other and reduce their own legal responsibility. On March 27, 2016, the macabre charade finally collapsed when police discovery teams uncovered Jimmy Prout's heavily decomposed remains in the thick brushwood. A comprehensive 101-page domestic homicide review published years later highlighted that Jimmy Prout was heavily failed by safeguarding authorities. The review found a systematic and persistent pattern of the abusers manipulating the very systems meant to protect victims. Jimmy had multiple interactions with healthcare services and A&E during his months of torture. In one stark instance in November 2015, he entered the hospital with severe injuries inflicted by a baseball bat and a knife. Because he was continuously accompanied to these medical visits by his abusers, he was never granted the privacy to speak out. The review noted that professionals severely failed by not separating Jimmy from the group to interview him alone. Authorities were blinded by a rigid framework, frequently logging him into their systems as a perpetrator of domestic disturbances rather than recognizing him as a heavily exploited, vulnerable victim of group violence. The resulting 7-week trial at Newcastle Crown Court exposed the full, horrifying scope of the group's actions to the public. While each individual attempted to shift the primary blame onto their co-defendants, the prosecution successfully demonstrated that they acted as a unified, brutal pack. All 4 defendants had previously pleaded guilty to charges of perverting the course of justice for their elaborate cover-up attempts. After the trial, Zahid Zaman and Ann Corbett were both sentenced to life imprisonment. Meanwhile, Kay Rayworth was sentenced to 12 years and Myra Wood for 9 years in prison. Upon sentencing, Mr. Justice Court directly branded Zahid Zaman an evil, vindictive man. Jimmy's brother, Eddie Prout, expressed deep, enduring anger that so-called human beings could treat another person so horribly, while the public institutions tasked with his safety completely missed the signs. Ultimately, this case stands as a harrowing testament to the devastating power of coercive control and psychological manipulation. It forces us to confront a terrifying reality that profound cruelty does not always hide in dark, remote corners of the world. Sometimes it builds a home, establishes a quiet ecosystem of fear, and operates completely unnoticed right outside our neighbor's door. Jimmy Prout's story is a tragic reminder of what happens when a community and the systems built to protect us look closely but fail to truly see. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you want to help keep these stories alive, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It truly helps. If there's a true crime case, unsolved mystery, or any other unexplained event that deserves more attention, feel free to send an email or leave a comment down below.